After confirming my name was on the selection list multiple times, I nearly cried myself to sleep on the draft bed. Everyone knew I had no desire to enter the palace. I secretly sought out Song Fushue to discuss a strategy. I even thought about eloping with him. We grew up together as childhood sweethearts. I was certain he would find a way for me. Unexpectedly, Song Fushue said with a straight face, Ailing, the imperial draft is a national event. It cannot be defied. Besides, I've always seen you as a sister. If we were to just run away, what would happen to our families? I looked at Song Fushue in disbelief. I never expected such cold words from him. I stubbornly struck him and cried, I don't care. You must find a way for me. I won't enter the palace. At that moment, I had this strange confidence, as if I'd definitely be chosen the moment I stepped inside. Song Fushue couldn't shake me off. Helplessly, he went to investigate the emperor's preferences. Finally, he told me His Majesty disliked purple. On the day of the draft, I wore a purple ensemble. Even my hair accessories were purple. I looked at myself in the mirror. I actually looked quite charming. I was almost mesmerized by my own beauty, but remembering the emperor hated purple, I was sure I would be rejected. I let out a smug little giggle. However, the young emperor's eyes glimmered when he saw me. He looked like he was about to swoon. He muttered to himself, the courtyard is full of mediocrity, but she is a peerless beauty. The empress dowager nearby asked, Liang Jun, what did you say? With flushed cheeks, the young emperor said to her, Mother, this lady can be my empress. The gaze of everyone present suddenly fell on me. The empress dowager stared at me for a while. She asked, which family are you from? I hadn't expected the young emperor to say that. I wanted to cry, but I had no tears. I could only brace myself to answer her. To your majesty, I am Wei Lan, daughter of Wei Changji, an imperial lieutenant. The empress dowager shook her head. Only an 8th rank official? Her background is too low. My eyes lit up when she said that. I thought there was a chance for a turnaround. I don't know what the young emperor whispered to her, but she eventually spoke with some hesitation. The Wei girl's background is indeed humble. Making her empress is a bit of a stretch. Let her be the noble consort instead. Everything went dark before my eyes. I almost collapsed on the spot. Being noble consort is a position of great prestige. The rank is exceedingly high, second only to the empress. Given my family's status, even being a 3rd rank lady would be a massive promotion. Given my family's status, even being a 3rd rank lady would be a massive promotion. And yet, with just a few words from the Empress Dowager, I was suddenly made a noble consort. In this draft, 4 concubines were chosen for the emperor. Noble consort Wei, which is me, Wei Ling. 2 4th-rank beauties, Yu and Fong. And a 5th-rank talented lady, Jiang. Since I held the highest rank, the Empress Dowager granted me the authority to temporarily manage the 6 palaces. Every other day, I had to go to her palace to learn. Everything from managing finances and silk to settling squabbles between pets, every matter, big or small, would end up on my plate. I was exhausted to death. After finally getting the hang of it, I also became close with the other concubines. Beauty Yu and Beauty Fong were often in my palace. They would stay for hours. And they never came empty-handed. Noble consort. This is a sachet I made for you personally. Hanging it by your bed will help you sleep. Beauty Fong also gave me some handmade trinkets. Since they didn't come empty-handed, I couldn't help but give gifts in return. I gritted my teeth and gave them each a jade bracelet. As a high-ranking consort, my gifts couldn't be too cheap. Just with these returns, dozens of taels of silver were gone. They were all smiles. But they showed no sign of leaving. With 2 people sitting there, I had to provide tea, fruit, snacks, and the like, right? I told Xiaoji to bring out the fresh pastries from the kitchen, and a plate of tribute chrysanthemums. The 2 weren't shy at all. They ate while they gossiped. Oh, you truly are the noble consort. The snacks in your palace are delicious. Then they looked at me expectantly. If you sisters like them, I'll have someone send some to your palaces too. Thank you, your grace. Beauty Yu replied instantly, as if afraid I would change my mind. If I gave some to you, I couldn't ignore Fong, could I? So, 2 more plates of pastries were gone. Your grace is so kind, beautiful and virtuous. After they talked themselves out, they drank several pots of tea. Before I knew it, it was dinner time. I couldn't just not host them for dinner. I had to ask the kitchen for extra dishes to entertain the 2 concubines. After a day like this, I was down nearly 20 taels of silver. It's not that I'm stingy, but no fortune can withstand them visiting every day. Moreover, the Empress Dowager practiced frugality, even as noble consort. I couldn't be so wasteful. As time went on, I quickly ran out of money. It's all Song Fushua's fault. If he hadn't lied about the emperor hating purple, I wouldn't have been chosen for the harem. And none of this would have happened. So, I wrote a very long letter to Song Fushue, asking him for money. Though Song Fushue was unreliable about the draft, he was still helpful. He had someone send me a 1,000 tael banknote. However, I didn't expect that talented Lady Jiang would somehow find out. She even reported it to the Empress Dowager, claiming I had a secret, improper affair with Song Fushue. The Empress Dowager had a stern face. She tore the letter into pieces. But she didn't blame me. Instead, she said to Lady Jiang with disappointment, "I cannot tolerate sand in my eyes. And I despise those who stir up trouble most of all." Lady Jiang realized the Empress Dowager was displeased and fell to her knees to beg for mercy. "Your Majesty, I was wrong." The Empress Dowager gave a minor punishment to serve as a warning. She fined Lady Jiang 6 months of her stipend. Noble consort, what is the meaning of this? The Empress Dowager was majestic. I had no choice but to tell her the whole truth. My sisters often visit my palace. And over time, I've started running short on funds. That's why I resorted to this. The Empress Dowager was speechless. She hadn't expected me to be as foolish as Lady Jiang. "You are an imperial consort. You've completely embarrassed the royal family. Even if you lack money, you can't ask outsiders for it. What will people say if word gets out? Return the money to Song Fushue immediately." "I understand, Your Majesty." The emperor happened to return to the palace from an inspection. He witnessed this whole scene. He quickly helped me up. "Sister Ling, are you short on money? I will give all my money to you." Seeing the dowager's displeased look, I quickly whispered to the emperor, "Your Majesty, I don't deserve to be called your sister. Although I am 3 years older than the emperor, he is the ruler and I am his subject. How could I let him call me sister? Even if he were to call me that, it should be in the privacy of our chambers, a matter between the sheets." The emperor's face turned bright red. He stiffened his neck and said, "Sister Ling, I understand now." After the incident ended, the emperor indeed gave me the keys to his private treasury. "Sister Ling, take whatever you want. Don't be shy." Once I had money, Beauty Yu and Beauty Fong seemed even more pleasant. They were sweet talkers and skilled in crafts. But when we gathered, we were always missing a fourth for games. "How about we ask Sister Jiang to join us?" Beauty Yu gave her a look. Actually, I had secretly investigated Lady Jiang. I found out she was actually a distant relative of Song Fushue. Song Fushue must have been stingy with his money and teamed up with her to pull that stunt. With a living person lying beside me, holding hands and hugging, I always felt something was off. "Sister Ling, you are so beautiful." The emperor propped his head up with his hand, watching me from his side. His gaze made me feel quite shy. My face turned as red as blood while I was wondering what would happen. What would happen next? The emperor just hugged me and fell asleep. It went on like this for several months. I once secretly asked the two beauties about their time spent with the emperor. They were extremely embarrassed. They wouldn't say a word. Only after I gave them each a large luminous pearl did they blurt out that they just slept. "How do you sleep?" I pressed further. "Compared to you, Beauty Fong was a bit more open. She said, we just lie on the bed and sleep. No hand-holding or hugging?" "Your Grace, what are you saying? How could such a thing happen?" I almost fell over. The emperor didn't just sleep platonically with me, he slept platonically with them too, even more platonically than with me. The emperor spent most of his time each month being platonic in my palace. As the favored consort, I naturally wanted to seek some benefits for my family. I took the emperor's hand and said, "Your Majesty, my father is still just an 8th-rank petty official. His monthly salary isn't enough to cover expenses. Why don't you grant him some funds?" The emperor didn't seem to hear what I said. He just kept saying okay, and even to make me happy, he let me sit in the study and review memorials with him. The emperor got a headache just looking at them. The regent wants me to learn state affairs, but I find it so boring. "Sister Ling, please help me." The emperor begged me piteously. I thought about it. I could take the opportunity to get back at Song Fushue. So I agreed to review the memorials with the emperor. However, in Song Fushue's memorial,
There were many words I didn't recognize. The more I looked, the more annoyed I got. Your Majesty, Minister Song used so many obscure words. I don't know any of him. Is he doing this on purpose? The Emperor was about to say he knew them. But seeing my dark expression, he quickly said, yes. How does Sister Ling want to punish him? I held the brush and thought for a moment. Then make him copy those words I don't know. 1,000 times. The Emperor's eyes wavered. Isn't that a bit too many? It was indeed a bit much. Then 500 times. Sister Ling, you are truly understanding. The Emperor's eyes crinkled into crescents. Song Fushue, like a sitting duck, was baffled by the punishment. After writing, he thought it was just bad luck. Unaware that this was only the beginning. Even though the Emperor allowed me to attend court, I knew I wasn't particularly capable. I just sat there obediently with the Emperor. State affairs were under the regent's jurisdiction. Leaving things to him. The Emperor felt very secure, but the regent would let the Emperor practice. With minor matters, the Emperor would always ask for my opinion first. Sister Ling, what do you think? I didn't know either. But I couldn't admit my ignorance in front of so many people, so I had to brace myself and talk nonsense. The first one to notice something was wrong was Song Fushue. Your Grace, this move is incorrect. I was stunned, and so was the Emperor. It just so happened the regent favored Song Fushue. From then on, the Emperor and I often found Song Fushue annoying. We opposed him at every turn, either saying this thing he did was wrong, or that thing he did was bad. Of course, don't think the Emperor was targeting him on purpose. We criticized the regent behind his back too. Okay, fine, I was targeting Song Fushue on purpose. After court, the Emperor and I looked at each other and burst into laughter. It turned out Song Fushue's boots were too slippery during court, and he accidentally took a tumble. The Emperor and I almost laughed on the spot. The regent gave us a glare, so we forced ourselves to hold it in. Ha ha ha. Only after court, in a deserted corner, did we finally laugh out loud. The Emperor looked at me again with that infatuated gaze. It was quite embarrassing. Sister, you are so beautiful. Where exactly am I beautiful? Everywhere is beautiful. Especially your eyes, they look like they're filled with water. You're pretty when you're happy. And you're pretty when you're not happy. The Emperor's words made me overjoyed. Who doesn't like being complimented on their looks? 3 years passed. All the consorts' bellies were still empty. In the first year, the Dowager said no rush. The Emperor is still young. In the second year, she still said no rush. The Emperor is still young. But by the third year, the Dowager started to get anxious. She summoned the 4 of us for a lecture. Harem concubines. The most important duty is to bear children for the Emperor, to continue the royal lineage. Why are the 4 of you so disappointing? Everyone silently lowered their heads. I lowered mine the most. That night, I discreetly said to the Emperor, Your Majesty, the Dowager wants us to have a child. When the Emperor heard this, his expression didn't change at all. That's easy. I'll get one tomorrow. Then he pulled me into bed to sleep. I looked at the Emperor. Did he not like me? Did he want to have a child with another consort? Yes. My heart felt sour, swollen and very uncomfortable. The next day, the Emperor actually brought the regent's month-old granddaughter into the palace. Sister Ling, I brought the child as requested. My breath hitched, looking at the chubby little girl. I didn't know what to do for a moment. Sister Ling, isn't Shower cute? The Emperor looked at me pleasingly. Just after he complimented her, the baby started wailing loudly. She peed all over the Emperor. Meanwhile, the regent's daughter, Lady Li, had come into the palace to complain to the Dowager. She cried pitifully, Your Majesty, Shower is still so small. If my family has done anything wrong, I am willing to take the punishment. Please, for my father's sake, don't mistreat Shower. The dowager was overwhelmed by Lady Li. She only then realized the emperor had caused such trouble. She immediately ordered the child to be returned. Right now, the emperor and I were kneeling together at the dowager's feet. We didn't dare lift our heads, like scared kittens. The dowager didn't speak. She just sipped her tea quietly. The emperor was the first to speak. Mother, I was wrong. I just wanted a child. It turned out the emperor and the regent's son-in-law, Lord Chui, were playing with crickets when Lord Chui heard the emperor wanted a child. He said, "If your majesty doesn't mind, then take my Chaoer into the palace. She can keep you company." The emperor then excitedly brought the child to me. The dowager was so angry she almost spat blood. "I told you to have a child. Is this how you go about it?" The emperor nodded. I didn't dare say a word throughout. The dowager sensed something was wrong. She dismissed the emperor first. Then she summoned the beauties to ask about their intimate lives. They all stammered with blushing faces. Only Lady Jiang looked normal. After her stipend was docked, she had retreated to the most remote palace. We hadn't been close to her these past years. After the dowager's questioning, she finally realized that all four of us were only sleeping platonically with the emperor. She nearly fainted. Where is the matron of rites? Aren't they supposed to guide the consorts before their first night? The dowager sent someone to fetch her. But when I heard those words, I suddenly remembered something. When I first entered the palace, the dowager wanted me to cut costs. I suggested dismissing unnecessary maids and matrons. Since the palace didn't need so many people anyway, it was better to give them some silver and let them go home to their families. The dowager had even praised my virtue. I was so smug at the time that I forgot to tell her that I had dismissed the matron of rites. I didn't know that was her job. As expected, the dowager's man couldn't find her. Seeing my guilty look, the dowager looked at me darkly. "Noble consort, tell me what happened." I wanted to tell a little lie, but the dowager hated liars most of all. I braced myself and told her. "Wei Ling, you silly woman. That was the harshest thing the dowager had said to me since I arrived." My tears started flowing immediately. I looked at the dowager with teary eyes, feeling aggrieved, heartbroken, and sad, wanting to explain myself. The dowager's heart softened first. "Forget it. You're just inexperienced. I shouldn't have let you handle everything back then. I was just blinded by anger and spoke too harshly. Don't take it to heart." I sniffled, touched by her words, and tried to justify it. I was also thinking of His Majesty's health. The dowager's interest was piqued. Doing it too much is bad for the body. The dowager was speechless. Everything was so muddled. Yu and Didifang looked confused, while Lady Jiang looked astonished. The dowager found a new matron. Yu and Didifang were blushing furiously. They whispered to me in private, "Your Grace, this isn't very good, is it? What's not good about it?" They hesitated and didn't speak. They pulled me into Didifang's small pavilion, where a portrait of a handsome man was mysteriously hung. "This is Guard Yen from the Cold Palace." Seeing their expressions, I understood immediately. They were close like sisters. And apparently, they had the same taste in men. But I was powerless to help. "Sisters, there's nothing I can do about this. But don't worry. I will keep your secret." No wonder they claimed to be sick soon after entering the palace to avoid betting. So that was the reason. Later, my relationship with the emperor grew better and better. He stopped looking at other women. The dowager told him not to favor only me, but to see the other beautiful consorts. Though the emperor was reluctant, he still went to Beauty-Yu's palace. Beauty-Yu's brother had done a great job in flood control. The dowager said this was his reward. I looked at the moon outside the window, not expecting to feel so sad. Although I always knew the emperor wasn't mine alone. And before I was young and didn't understand, I can no longer lie to myself now. The emperor was really going to be with another woman. At the thought of this, I blamed Song Fushue again. If he hadn't tricked me into entering the palace, I wouldn't be suffering like this. I was in the middle of my grief, when suddenly, someone patted me on the back. When I turned my head, I found he was already in front of me. The emperor wiped my tears and said, "Sister Ling." I went to Beauty Yu's courtyard. With every step I took, I thought of you. Please don't be sad anymore. In the future, I will only have you, okay? I sniffled. How can you guarantee that? How will you do it? I will ask the dowager to dismiss the other consorts. I will also ask her to crown you empress. The emperor acted on his whim, taking my hand and rushing into the dowager's palace. The dowager was still sleeping. The attendants didn't dare disturb her, but they didn't dare stop the emperor either. They could only watch. The emperor and I knelt in front of her room for 6 or 8 hours. They say the imperial family is heartless, yet the sons of the Xia family are strangely devoted. I heard that the late emperor, to marry the dowager, even defied the world and snatched his bride in public. Therefore, the emperor didn't think he was being foolish at all. When the dowager finally came out, she saw us and her head felt like it was exploding. She couldn't help but think, why are these two ancestors here again? The emperor cowed out to her. Mother, I don't want anyone else. I only want Sister Ling. I want to make her empress. The dowager felt a throbbing headache. What are you making a scene for so early in the morning? After listening to the emperor explain, she finally understood. The emperor wanted to empty the entire harem. Nonsense. How can that be allowed? They were all brought in through the official selection. If you dismiss the harem, how will they make a living in the future? The emperor had already thought of a plan. I can give them a lot of money and let them start new lives with new identities. What about the 3 years they wasted in the harem? Can money buy that back? The dowager looked at the emperor with disappointment. She asked the regent to come persuade him. The emperor always listened to the regent most. Unexpectedly, this time he was stubborn to the end, refusing to give in. Yafu, I only want Sister Ling. The emperor cried as he spoke. I know you all think I'm just acting up. But Yafu, surely you can understand me. When you love someone, it can only be them. No one else will do. I only want Sister Ling. I don't want anything else. His words were like thunder. The regent had never married in his life. It was said it was all for a woman from the mountains. For a moment, the regent was visibly moved. This is a grave matter. Your Majesty should not be so reckless. He wiped the emperor's tears with his rough fingers. Yafu, I know I've been reckless for so many years. That's because I know I lack the talent to govern the country. Nor can I manage the deep emotions of 1,000 hearts. I have no strategy to stabilize the people and no military skill to reclaim lost lands. I was only 6 when my father passed away, but he already knew this. He said, at best, I would be a ruler who could only maintain the status quo. But my father and Ifu had great ambitions. Neither was willing to settle for just the south. So on his deathbed, my father was willing to cast aside the ancestral line to cede the throne to you, Yafu. Only then would there be hope of reclaiming the 16 prefectures. But you didn't do it, Yafu. Instead, you raised me with such care. In my heart, you are not my father. But you are more of a father than anyone. It's only because of you that I could be so reckless for all these years. I also know that if I act a bit foolish, it makes it easier for you to handle things. The court officials wouldn't object either. But about Sister Ling, I am not being reckless. I didn't expect that this seemingly unreliable little emperor had actually grown up. He understood everything, moved by his words. The regent choked up and said he would talk to the dowager. With the regent's persuasion, the dowager finally relented and let Beauty Yu and the others leave, but the matter of making me empress was still to be discussed. The emperor personally apologized to the 3 beauties and gave them a vast amount of wealth. Since this started because of me, I naturally had to show my gratitude as well. I let Beauty Yu and Beauty Fong come to my palace to take things. They could take whatever they liked. Their eyes lit up immediately. They said in unison, "Really?" Of course it's true. Then I heard them saying, "Your Grace, I've had my eye on that red coral for so long. Take it. And those tea sets. I like them both." They went in and out, nearly emptying my palace. Beauty Yu then said, "I also like the little kitten in your palace, Your Grace." I pouted. Not this one." Beauty Yu let out a long sigh. after we leave the palace. I couldn't bear to hear them say that. Helplessly, I had to give in. If you like it, little sister, take it with you. The one who felt pitiable was me. Watching Beauty U happily leave with my kitten in her arms. Ah. That was my kitten. My kitten. It's all Song Fushua's fault. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have had to lose my kitten as compensation. Thank you. I'm sorry, my little kitten. Sister U, I'll trade a box of fist-sized luminous pearls with you. Leave the kitten for me. I only have him. Beauty U giggled. Then reached out her hand. Your Grace, do you have any luminous pearls left? I really didn't. But I wrote Beauty U an IOU. Telling her to ask Song Fushue for it once she left. Beauty U and Beauty Fong left the palace smoothly. However, something went wrong when Lady Jiang was leaving. Lady Jiang had a lover. I glared at the Emperor.
What's going on? The Emperor also felt wrongly accused. He clearly hadn't done anything. Before long, the Dowager found out the truth. It turned out Lady Jiang had fallen for a guard in the cold palace. This cleared the Emperor's name. The Dowager asked the Emperor how to handle it. The Emperor and I looked at each other. Just let them both go. Suddenly, I was the only one left in the harem. It felt much quieter. Fortunately, the Emperor often kept me company. But the Dowager couldn't stand it anymore. And told me to advise the Emperor. The Emperor is fond of play. You must guide him well. The regent is getting old. The court affairs must eventually return to His Majesty's hands. I understand. Every time, I would nod like a chick pecking at grain. I would repeat the Dowager's words. To the Emperor. Though it went in one ear and out the other. He wasn't entirely unlearned. He also started putting effort into learning how to handle state affairs. Another year passed until Spring Festival. Since the late Emperor left, we had recovered for many years. Now, the regent was going to lead an expedition. Before leaving, the regent specially instructed the Emperor. Your Majesty, Song Fushue is a talent in both civil and military affairs. If there's anything you don't understand in the future, consult him often and stop targeting him. The Emperor nodded. And personally put a cloak on the regent. His eyes were full of reluctance, as he waved goodbye to the regent's departing figure. Yafu, take care of your health. I'll wait for your return. After the regent left, the Emperor learned to handle court affairs. There were indeed many things he didn't understand. He simply partitioned a small room in the study. And had Song Fushue come over, working day and night without rest. Of course, the Emperor and I still rested when it was time. After a few days, Song Fushue's face was lined with exhaustion. Sister Ling. Maybe we should let Minister Song go back and rest. The Emperor felt a bit guilty and discussed it with me. When Yafu left, he specially told me not to target him anymore. I sipped my tea. We aren't targeting Minister Song. We are letting him contribute to the dynasty. Didn't the regent also say before he left that we should make good use of Minister Song? See how obedient we are. The Emperor nodded. That makes sense. In truth, I was deliberately targeting Song Fushue. Anyway, the regent didn't instruct me. If he gets angry when he returns, it'll be at the Emperor. Of course, I think. This isn't my fault either. I once asked the Emperor when I first entered the palace. Your Majesty, do you remember when I was at the selection? What kind of clothes I was wearing? The Emperor said. I didn't notice what color you were wearing at all. I was only looking at your face. I huffed with my hands on my hips. I was wearing purple. Then I like purple too. Purple is now my favorite color. That's when I confirmed Song Fushue had lied to me. So he deserves everything he gets. The Mountain of Memorials nearly broke Song Fushue's back. When he first heard the Emperor and noble consort were relying on him so much, he felt sensitive and helpless. He thought the noble consort had finally grown up. He had watched the noble consort grow up and truly treated her like a sister. But it seemed she had a little misunderstanding about him. But now, Song Fushue was so exhausted he couldn't take it anymore. His eyes were blurring from reading the memorials. He realized she might still be targeting him. So while the Emperor was away, he asked her for an explanation. When I heard Song Fushue's question, I got angry and complained to him about it. You were the one who told me His Majesty didn't like purple. But I wore purple and still got selected. Song Fushua wanted to cry but had no tears. He felt more wrongly accused than anyone. He didn't even care about formalities anymore. Do you not have any awareness of your own face? Even if you wore rags, you would still be chosen. At this moment, the emperor, who was silently eating watermelon. I didn't like purple before, but I'm not blind. The emperor handed me another piece of watermelon, and I finally realized. I had wrongly blamed Song Fushua for many years. I cautiously handed a piece of watermelon to Song Fushua. Brother Fushua, please have some watermelon. I won't eat it. Song Fushua let out a long breath. I haven't closed my eyes for 2 days and nights. Filled with remorse, I immediately sent Song Fushua back to sleep. Then I started blaming the emperor again. Didn't you say you liked purple? After saying it, I felt I was being a bit unreasonable. Oh well. I've been unreasonable so many times, what's one more? The emperor started coaxing me again. I didn't like purple before, because I hadn't met Sister Ling yet. Sister Ling, don't be angry anymore. Eat some watermelon, okay? To make up for my mistake. I grumbled and started flipping through the memorials. Although I often discussed things with the emperor, they were all small matters used for practice by the regent. Like whose dog bit which official. Or which official's servant was being a bully. I didn't know how to handle anything bigger. But these new memorials were about huge matters. Like military reforms and tax changes. The emperor saw me frowning miserably and whispered a secret to me. It's all good. Let's just leave it to Song Fushua. The Mid-Autumn Festival was approaching. I heard there was a lantern festival on the streets of the city. The emperor secretly took me out of the palace. While we were eating wontons at a food stall, we happened to be caught by Song Fushua. The emperor and I both looked guilty. I gave a sheepish grin. Minister Song, what a coincidence. The emperor pushed his untouched bowl of wontons in front of Song Fushua. You like wontons too? I don't know why, but from Song Fushua's demeanor, both of us felt we saw the regent's shadow. Song Fushua said earnestly, it's not safe for your majesty and the noble consort to be out alone. Go back to the palace after finishing these. Okay. However, before we even finished, many men in black suddenly appeared around us. Song Fushua drew his sword and stood in front of us. He fought more than a dozen men in black alone. Go, go, go. While we shouted encouragement to him, we scrambled to hide inside the wonton shop. Hurry, you two leave. I grabbed the emperor's hand and ran a long way in one breath, leaving the men in black behind. Meanwhile, the lone Song Fushua was surrounded by blades. It was like mitosis. As soon as one was cut down, 2 more lunged forward. The dark crowd seemed endless. He looked back to find no one behind him. By the time we brought reinforcements, Song Fushua was seriously injured. The emperor personally applied medicine to his wounds, thanking him for saving our lives. Meanwhile, the dowager went to interrogate the captured men in black. Under torture, 2 of them confessed. They were spies from the enemy state, while the regent was fighting Bachin. The spies in the city were becoming restless. The dowager was furious, and ordered a thorough investigation. However, good news also arrived during this time. The regent had won a battle, and it looked like he was about to reclaim the capital, Dongjing. While Song Fushua was ill, the emperor had no one to rely on. He spent every single day in the study. The 2 of us counted the days, hoping for Song Fushua to get better soon, and for the regent to return. It seemed our sincerity moved the heavens. Song Fushua recovered quickly and returned to work soon after he could walk again. It was a double blessing. The regent had captured Dongjing and was coming back. It had never snowed in the south. But on the day the regent returned, snowflakes began to fall. When the regent's coffin arrived at the city gate, the emperor learned that although Dongjing was captured, the regent had fallen in battle. The emperor couldn't believe it, and remained in a daze for a long time. He personally went to the city gate to meet the guards. They said the regent didn't want the news to leak, so they didn't raise the white banners until they were outside the city. The emperor felt completely lost. Yafu was gone. He could never be a carefree child again. From then on, the emperor grew up significantly. He began handling court affairs of all sizes, and relied on the people the regent had mentioned before he died. Before his death, The regent had written a very long letter to the emperor, telling him how to govern. Who were the capable talents? Who had ill intentions? Which matters were urgent? And which could wait? He especially recommended Song Fushue to the emperor. He was trained by the regent himself. At the end of the letter, the regent added a line. If your majesty wants to make Lady Wei the empress, then do it immediately. The emperor had secretly told me before that he had begged the regent. When you return victorious, ask the dowager to let me make her empress. The regent didn't agree immediately. But he didn't refuse either. When the emperor and I saw that last line, our tears fell like rain. We both felt we had been too immature. Actually, the dowager was quite good to me. The reason she wouldn't let me be empress wasn't because of my low social standing, but because there was a traitor in my ancestry. If you counted back my lineage, the Wei family had even produced a founding general. But because of that ancestral history, the dowager didn't agree to me becoming empress. The emperor likes Lady Wei. So being a favored consort is enough, knowing I always wanted to be empress. The emperor had thought of the indirect tactic of asking the regent. Now that the regent was gone, I couldn't bear to make things difficult for the emperor. For the first time I was very understanding. It's okay, your majesty, if I can't be empress, I won't. But you cannot make any other woman empress. Nor can you even look at another woman. Not even a glance. Later, the emperor gradually became a true ruler. And I gave birth to the eldest prince. The eldest prince was titled Prince of Yu at birth. When he was 4, we had to choose a teacher for him. The emperor and I looked through all the famous scholars, but couldn't decide, while our son happened to see Song Fushue in his official robes. With one look, father, mother, I want him to be my teacher. I like him. From then on, it was unstoppable. Our son spoke of teacher Song at every turn. The dowager even said he liked Song Fushue best. The dowager second. The books in the study third. And various weapons fourth. Unfortunately, the emperor and I only ranked 5th. We often argued about which of us was 5th. Because no one in this world wants to be last. The emperor finally learned to be jealous, feeling that our son was too biased. Fortunately, Song Fushue taught him all his knowledge and martial arts. Not long after starting his studies, our son could already write poetry. He was also quite adept at martial arts. The emperor looked at him with relief. Minister Song has taught him so well. What more can I say? Song Fushue inherited the regent's legacy and led the army to attack Yuzhou once more. After 3 years of fighting, he finally reclaimed the central lands. The emperor made a decision to move the capital back. The moment he climbed the city walls, the emperor was finally able to issue the decree, appointing me as empress, and our eldest son as the crown prince. That year, the emperor was 33. And I was 36. At 33, the emperor already had some white hair at his temples. Being emperor was a very strenuous task for him. The emperor gradually began handing over the court affairs to the prince, and sent him to various places to observe the people's lives. In the year the prince turned 16, the emperor acted recklessly one last time. He abdicated to the prince. The dowager didn't agree at first, but she had seen the emperor's struggles over the years. She saw it all. Mother, I am playful by nature, and of mediocre talent. Before, I had Ye Fu, and later, I had Song Fushue. That's the only way I barely managed to hold on. Now our son is grown. He is more capable than I am. He will definitely be a good emperor. Ailing and I don't want to do this anymore. I held Xia Liangjuan's hand, silently supporting his decision. On the day of the Double Ninth Festival, the new emperor ascended the throne. Xia Liangjun and I laid down all our burdens and went off to travel and enjoy the sights, because we were both the type of people who couldn't be forced into greatness. Acting like serious rulers for over 10 years had nearly exhausted us. Fortunately, our son was promising and governed the country in an orderly manner. Song Fushue had worked tirelessly for so many years and finally became the prime minister. Above 10,000, but below 1. Quite the glorious position. Xia Liangjun and I saw the beautiful scenery of the 4 seasons, the mountains, rivers, and seas. It seemed we had returned to our younger selves. I even gave the crown prince a younger brother and sister along the way. When the twins were 3, they were extremely mischievous. They nearly exhausted Xia Liangjun and me. Fortunately, the twins somehow took a liking to Song Fushue, so he had no time to pester us. Xiao Liangjun and I packed our things overnight and ran away, leaving the children with Song Fushue. Inside the Prime Minister's estate, Song Fushue was being driven crazy by the two children. Only then did he feel that Xiao Liangjun and I back then were still far too kind. 6 months later, the good-natured Song Fushue uttered his first complaint in his entire life. You two gave birth to these children but won't raise them. You've enjoyed a lifetime of blessings. Xiao Liangjun and I were far away in Dongzhou, sunbathing on a small island. Perhaps feeling some guilt towards Song Fushue, Xiao Liangjun decided to write him a thank you letter. The first line turned out to be, Fushue, the flowers in Dongzhou have bloomed. Come soak up the sun. If you write it that way, he'll feel even more indignant. Then how should I write it? I don't know either. After thinking for several days, Song Fushue received the letter. There was only one sentence inside. Dear Fushue, the flowers in Dongzhou have bloomed. Come soak up the sun.